So, continuing on with this marathon, we're going to be looking at Xtreme's follow-up, Megaman Xtreme 2 for the GBC. And just like Xtreme, we're also going to boot this game via emulation, as I do like the necessary console that I needed along with its add-on. However, just like X2 and Xtreme 1, this is also one of my least played games, and upon completing the game, has it improved upon its predecessor? Or does it fail to live up to the word extreme? Well, let's go start the game up, shall we?
Set between X3 and 4, things in the world seemed kosher until all over the world, Reploids are having their programs, both memories and personalities, suddenly erased, leaving them hollow shells, and strangely enough, no instances of Maverick attacks. They just shut down by themselves, oddly enough. This phenomenon was named erasure. No one knows how or where it's happening until one day, the readings of Reploids in a remote landmass called Lagos Island in the Southern Ocean had instantly vanished, but it was also from that island that the source of the erasure is determined. So X and Zero are deployed to Lagos Island with navigation assistance from Iris from Megaman X4, who despite her allegiance with Repliforce, it's in this game that she had worked part-time with the Maverick Hunters per request of Repliforce, with the erasure incident being her first mission. When you start the game, two modes are selectable, X Mission and Zero Mission, each telling the story through each hunter's perspective, and both have contrasting styles, with X as the long-distance hunter and Zero the melee fighter. It's also in these two modes that right after the intro stage, both hunters would each have 4 different undead Mavericks in their respective modes before taking on the final stages. As with Xtreme 1, Xtreme 2 borrows assets not just from the first 2 X games, but X3 as well, though there are some minor changes. In this case, one I noticed is on Volt Catfish, whose first part is his own stage before transitioning to Toxic Seahorse's stage. Speaking of stages, some hazards are actually new to this game that you have to be aware of, as they can be one-hit death traps. Such examples would be the Tornado Machines in Overdrive Ostrich, the Tidal Wave in Volt Catfish, and Rising Magma in Tunnel Rhino. Each stage has Dr. Light capsules not only for X, but for Zero as well, making this game likely the canonical encounter between Light and Zero, even though that concept started out in Megaman X5, which I'll get into soon. Zero parts can give him new abilities and increased defense, while X's parts are basically his X3 armor with Giga Crush from X2 thrown in. And yes, X's Street Fighter capsule from Xtreme also returns to this game, functioning the same way as Xtreme. But again, I just collected rather than making use of them. Upon defeating the boss in the opening stage, you gain what is called a DNA Soul, the essence that give Reploids their given programs. But they're also your means of restoring your HP and weapon energy, as well as currency for this game's shop. What follows is the introduction of a Reploid named Gareth, who calls himself a Soul Eraser, claiming to steal the souls of evil Mavericks. Not content with what they had to hear, the hunters decided to take on the undead Mavericks before pursuing Gareth and whoever else is responsible. Throughout the game, you can grind for DNA souls by destroying minor enemies for them, similarly to collecting bolts to create items in Mega Man 7 in the classic series. My preferred place of grinding for DNA souls is through Wire Sponge's stage. Certain items can appear in the shop, but only if the counter has reached a specific quota. But if it still doesn't appear, then it's back to more grinding until you're ready to see what's available again. The parts can range from an extended after-hit invincibility to an increase in power in each hunter's normal weapons, and take it from me, the hunter's parts are broken in this game. Having parts such as Saber Plus 1 and 2 for Zero, and Buster Plus 1 and 2 along with Speed Shot for X can really make the game so much easier that special weapons from defeated Mavericks are not really necessary to use. Heck, look at me fighting against Flame Mammoth as X. No need for special weapons on this one. So I suggest keep grinding for souls and get the parts whenever available. It'll make your gameplay that much easier. I swear, Zero's third slash, or in this case the ultimate saber part, if equipped, somehow resembles a Street Fighter move.
Sonic Boom! Sonic Boom!
It's also revealed that Gareth isn't acting alone. Enter the female maverick named Arcana, who was once a Reploid researcher who created the DNA soul chip that reproduced deceased Mavericks. She steals the souls of Reploids to enhance her own power as well as Gareth's. However, rather than stopping the hunters head on, Arcana allows the two heroes to progress so that they may strain their own DNA souls for her to take. Basically, the soul erasers are robotic Shang Tsungs, minus the shapeshifting, which we won't see till a much later game in the series. After the 4 Mavericks are beaten in your chosen story, the players can enter the final stages and are given the ability to switch between X and 0 at any time by going into the pause menu or pressing the select button after button configuration, and you can even do so during a boss fight. However, you can't make the switch until the after-hit invincibility stops. This mechanic definitely foreshadows a future Mega Man X game that I really don't want to review at all, but I'm forced to do so soon. Granted, X3 kinda did it first, but to a much lesser extent, as Zero's use of the game, at least in the original version, is limited in comparison. The character not chosen by the player at the start has all of his armor parts, but can't use any special weapons. In Maverick-based Act 3, the hunters split up again. X takes on Barkana and Zero takes on Gareth, with the latter patch showing a scene of Iris' concern for Zero, indicating her affection towards him. And upon their defeat, the game ends, but the game is not completely over just yet. By defeating one story mode, you're given a chance to save the endgame and load that save data for the unchosen story to start, with 4 special weapons available from the get-go, and keep playing on the save data until you beat that mode, and ask to save the other story's endgame data, unlocking Extreme mode. Though you can also unlock Extreme mode if you have 2000 DNA souls to spare, and it's in this mode that you can achieve the true ending. In Extreme mode, both characters are available right from the start, though bare bones of everything, and all 8 Mavericks from both modes will appear in the select screen. However, only the character that landed the final blow on the boss will obtain this weapon, leaving the player to choose which weapon each character will obtain. It's also important to note that the character that gets the hard tank in the stage is the only character that will be affected. You can have one Maverick Hunter take all the stuff if you so desire, but my advice is that if a stage is associated with that character, it's better to stick with that Hunter and keep them as balanced as you can, especially in the final stages. Keep in mind that once you start playing Extreme mode, if a certain capsule doesn't activate, you have to switch between characters in order to make it work. In the level where only one character is playable, which path the player can go depends on the character they're playing at the time when the cutscene is triggered and the hunters split up. So if you're playing as X until that point, you fight Barkana, and vice versa with Zero versus Gareth, and it's only after you defeat the chosen pathway will both hunters rendezvous again. Once that's done, players gain access to the true final level of the game, and both characters are playable again. This level has a rematch with the 8 Mavericks, followed by a fight against Sigma, who was the one that hired the Soul Erasers to do his dirty work. Go figure. Wolverine Sigma is much harder to avoid now, given the obvious screen crunching, so let's hope you have the necessary Buster and Saber parts prior to the battle. His final form, however, is a whole different level of irritation. He can only be damaged depending on Sigma's color and where and when to strike. When Cyan, switch to X and fire only charge shots to the Lion Head. Hit the Lion Head enough times to expose Sigma and strike him before he recovers. When Red, switch to Zero and strike him on the knees until he's exposed for the hit. Once Sigma goes down, all of the DNA souls within Sigma are returning to the Reploids by themselves, with Iris informing them that the Reploids are coming back to life. Zero worries that Iris' brother Colonel would blame him for having the erasure incident be too much for Iris to handle in her first mission as a Maverick Hunter. But X reassures that this experience will help straighten her resolve of what she's programmed to do, ending Megaman Xtreme 2.
I must say that for a cartridge this size, I'm actually impressed with the amount of content thrown in. I mean, I do know that X and Zero do start off with 4 Mavericks respectively until Extreme Mode is unlocked. However, the variety as well as the decent challenge actually made the game better than the last game. And I consider this to be the easiest of the Mega Man X games, what with the use of the Buster and Saber parts and whatnot. Yeah, the Buster and Saber parts, they really made the game broken that it kind of rendered special weapons useless. But it's still a solid game nonetheless. To that end, I'm going to give this game an 8. So if you want an easier Mega Man X game, well, this game is for you. Well, now that we're done with the handhelds, it's time to go back to 32-bit territory. So next up in the marathon, we're going to be looking at Mega Man X5. Now, will this game be much better than X4? Well, stay tuned to find out. Anyway, I would like to express my thanks to you viewers. I hope you liked this video. Until then, this has been Musashi X. I bid you all farewell, take care, and stay tuned!